Okay, obviously we're at the end of Amud Beis. At the bottom, store. If a person transfers from a store to a platia, is Rosh Yeshiva. It's a main center with many people. It's called Rosh Yeshiva. And there's stiyoi. Here the chiddush is where there's some type of built-in like a sitting space, which we'll see we'll see exactly what it is, but you're transferring, not necessarily we'll see in a minute, not stopping, but you're actually just going through the stiyoi. So, and the stiyoi is not a Rosh Yeshiva. Welcome tour. And therefore, there's something interrupting your itzah. So again, why is it because the body looks there? So what's your chayv? Benazi poiter bishlam benazi kisam halikoy. So why benazi paters we can hear it again. Here he's walking and he does his akira. Picks it up, walks out the store, walks through the stiyoi, and which is some type of platform in front of the store, and it's not Rosh Yeshiva, it's Rosh Yeshiva. So Ben Azai holds that the mahalach is also oimed. In other words, when you walk, part of walking is you walk, you stop, that's called. So you're stopping there, and therefore that is not called what the Torah says is hoitzah. So the Rabbi disagree with that point. That since you're walking, you never did stop. But hechi ashkechana ke'gavda dechayev. So in fact, if they disagree with that point, but still, in other words, we have to determine that this is what the Torah called hoitzah. And why? So the question of the Gemara is, who says? In other words, you want to obligate this person? Say, you have chatos, you did hitzah, but is that exactly what we find you did in the Mishkan? Was that the hitzah? Was there something interrupting the Shus HaYachid, the Shus HaRabim, or maybe the classic hitzah in the Torah is going for the Shus HaYachid from the house to Shus HaRabim? So who said this constitutes hitzah? We have to understand logically. If this is a significant change in the structure of what logically should be hitzah. So the one says, who says it's hitzah? Just like a mav minahava, just like a mav rechev shusarabim. We don't know that there's an additional form of itzah, which is anytime you pick something up with Shus HaRabim, not only are you going Shus HaRabim, if you pick something with Shus HaRabim and you transfer it, that is also called itzah. So let us borrow a concept from there. Over there we see, now theoretically, it's true, if you would stop in the middle, since you have to walk down Amos to be chayiv, so if you would stop after 2 Amos and interrupt your hitzah, your mavir, you'd be potter. So there is a potential tour in the middle of your process, and yet when you walk through it, you're chayiv. But you have kimarach lechayiv. So when we say the same thing, it's true. If you would go into the stiyoi, you would stop. I'm sitting in the stiyoi. I went from the shusiyah. You're right, you're potter. You're from the shusirab, potter. It's true. It's technically a mokum. It's not a shusarab, not a shusarab. It's not a shusarab. But you didn't stop. So just like over here where you didn't stop your chayiv. So Hanami, so to here, loy shna, doesn't matter. You should be chayiv. To which the Gemara argues and says, well, you can't really make that comparison because we dummy. It's not quite the same thing. In other words, you have to prove in logic in the Torah that this is a case of Eitzah, and you can't prove it because also essentially, when you go in Shus Rabbim, it's all the same as Shus Rabbim. It's all Chayim. You need to accomplish a certain shiur to be Chayim, Shkoyach. So there, it's Chiyuv. Whereas over here, if you put it, everyone agrees that stopping and putting it in the stiyoi is certainly mokum tur, and therefore, who says that is called hitzor? Elamida Davi, we'll bring a different example. Hamav Chayfetz. Again, we're bringing examples to prove that logically you see in hitzor that this should not interfere. The fact you're walking through. Elamida Davi, Hamav Chayfetz. Mitchilas Daled the Seiv Daled. Just like. Again, going back to Mavir Chayfetz, you're transferring from Dal Amos to Rishus Harabim, which is also Itzah in Rishus Harabim. So Chazam Lav Afagav Di Monach Le B'Toich Dal Amos Potter. So if you put it down B'Toich Dal Amos, you're Potter. Monach Le B'Toich Dal Amos, you're Chayiv. So here we say, similar to what we said before, if you would put it down in the middle, you put it down. If you transfer the whole down, Amos, you chayiv. So Chanami Doshno, Midori Hashem B'Avi the High Gavra Makom Tur, the Kuliyama Makom Chiyuv. So it's true, since you're going down Amos, so this space over here is a Makom Tur. But essentially, it's Shus Harabim. It's not really a Makom Tur. So therefore, you didn't really essentially pass through a Makom Tur in your Havara, and therefore we understand why you're Chayiv, because it's the Kuli Alam Makom Chiyuv. But whereas over here, in our case, it is absolutely, objectively, essentially, a Makom Tur over here, the Stiyoi. Kuli Alam Makom Tur. So here we'll find a new book. What about, we know, there's a case of taking Shus Rabim, which not every, passing through is quite the same. There is sometimes it's going to include Derech Tzidei Shus Rabim. There's a natural part of Shus Rabim which is naturally not really Shus Rabim. It's called Tzidei Shus Rabim. It's called the size of the Shus Rabim, in which people, are not flowing. The whole Rabbin is not flowing over there. They're actually somewhat blocked, but yet they will enter into that space. Rashi explains it means like you have like houses, and here's just a Rabbin, and there's like a wall, and sometimes it's like a break in the wall. And the traffic kind of flows a little bit to the side, like kind of veers off to the side and it goes back. But there's no flow, but yet there is Rabbim going there. So it's called Siddur Shus Rabbim, and I do. So if I will pass through there, that would certainly be considered to be a Hitzah. That's an assumption of the Gemara. The Gemara knows that is called Hitzah. So. The Mida Havi Amoitzu Shisiyo Shus Rabim Derech Tzidei Shus Rabim also Navagav the Monach Le Tzidei Shus Rabim Potter. There, now, if you would put it in the Tzidei Shus Rabim, that would not be called Shus Rabim. It'd be Potter. We cannot halachically call that Shus Rabim. But yet, if you just go for Monach Le Shus Rabim, but if you go for the Shus Yachid, you pass through the still, you don't stop, and you go to Shus Rabim. The Tzidei Shus Rabim, you don't stop. So you're chayav. That's a classic case of Tzah. Often the Rishus Harabim has a tzidei Rishus Harabim. So Haranami. So also the case of Tziyoi, it's very similar. Lishno. That's the suggestion of the Gemara. That's why logically we can understand why you'd be potter maskif l'ra papa. That all makes sense with this assumption that in fact the tzir Rishus Harabim is halachically not defined as Rishus Harabim, and therefore we have this chiddush that when you go through it, and you chayiv. So we can apply that as well to stiyah. You should be chayiv. El Rab Lazar ben Eliezer, Dami tzir Rishus Harabim is Rishus Harabim. He argues and says that the fact that the Rabbim flows through there, that is defined as Rishus Harabim. So there is no proof. There's no example of passing through something else that you still chayiv. Because that itself is Rishus Harabim. So Ma'ikal Meimar, back to the question. And the question is, how do you know, how is it so pasha to you that when you go through this yoy, which we're assuming everyone agrees, it itself is a makom tur. In itself, if you put it there, you potter. But if you pass through from Rishus Harabim, derech l'stiyoi, so we're saying in the Bryce Yechayev, why? Only Rav Acha Brei Rav Ika, Aim that shows the Loz Ben Yaakov, Dom Tzidei Rishus Harabim Domi. So it's true. He says Tzidei Rishus Harabim is, but that's Henken Deleki Chifufi. But sometimes you have Tzidei Rishus Harabim where there are Chifufi, which means they're actually something blocking the etzem flow. Again, that's Rashi defines Chifufi. Noetzim Misedres Ktanis, these small, pegs, these little sticks near Kaiso. Shechufush Amagoyla is the Kronis. Yechufu B'Kaiso. It blocks the flow of the traffic from hitting the wall. So it's somewhat segregated off the Rishus Harabim with the Chifufi. And yet, again, that certainly will define it as non-Rishus Harabim space. And yet we still say in Erevin, that what you transfer from Rishus Yochid through the Tzidei Rishus Harabim, through the Chifufi, you're still chayiv. So that's a proof that even though you're going through some un-Rishus Harabim place, it's almost identical to the case of Stiyai, basically. It's clearly not a mokum of Rishus Harabim. Hilchach l'hadamya. So that in fact is comparable to what we said. Okay? Okay, by the way, so we're now on the next Gemara. This is very important. This is the basic outline here. Now, we have to discuss here. Talking about so again, the first eight block here in this paragraph. It's so complicated. The next part here just lays down the basic definitions of what's Rishus Harabim. So let's pay attention very carefully. Turn Rabbanan. We learn as follows. Sorry. Amar Rab Yechon. Wait a minute. Azai. Zoyrek. But Azai agrees that if you zoyrek, even though he said that when you walk and carry it, you potter, but he agrees in zoyrek. When you throw something from the Rishus Yochid over the stiyai into the Rishus Harabim, that he agrees, and we'll prove that. Tani Nam Yochid, which is the plot of stiyai of chayev, echad hamoitzi, echad hamachnis, ve'echad ha-zoyrek, ve'echad hamoishit. According to Rabbanan, it doesn't make a difference how you make the transfer. As yoyim hamoitzi machnis potter hamoishit, zoyrek is chayev. And Ben Azai says that only Moshe and Zoyrek is chayiv, but he agrees. Okaponim, bottom line is he agrees 100% by Zoyrek. Tana Rabbanan Dal B'Shuyis to Shabbos. There are, in fact, 4 different halachic shuyas, 4 different areas halachically on Shabbos. They are as follows: Rishus Yochid, Rishus Harabim. Those are our 2 basics. Now, besides that, there's 4. Yeah, there's Carmelis, which we'll see is a Dirabanan Dika invention, and Makom Tur. And what's called Makom Tur, which basically we'll see in a minute. Now we have to do 2 things. We have to define what each one is, and we have to clarify how halacha pertains to each one. Zokti Gemara, Rabbi Say, Eizu Rishus Yochid. So what's a classic example? Very simple. Rishus Yochid is basically, as we'll see in a moment, anything with 4 walls, certain dimensions, it's Shus Yochid. Charetz, Shu Amud Yud, Yud Tvachim. Talking about Yud means Yud Tvachim, right? That was high. It's Yud Tvachim, and it's Rechav Dalet. It is 4 Tvachim wide. Or it could be for the same matter, same concept, is a enclosure, an above ground enclosure. That is Rishus HaYachid Gemura. That means to say, we'll see in a moment, that's really Rishus HaYachid, and therefore if you go from there to Rishus HaRabim, you're chayiv. What is Rishus HaRabim? It's a little more, complex definition. Rishus HaRabim, Sratya Platya. Sratya is like a square, a town square with many people in it. The traffic flows through there. Platya, Sratya is a highway. It goes from city to city. Platya is a central area in the city where everyone gathers. Sratya Platya, Doila. Now there's another very important example. Muvayis ufilashim zuzu shusharam gemura. The zuyu shusharam gemura. Muvayis ufilashim, which means muvayis are basically streets. Now, but not every street is shusharam. A mavoi mefulashed. It goes. It's completely continuous from one end to the other end. Now it's a little bit undefined what that one end means. We'll have to. That's an issue to define that. But a real long street that goes through the whole city, or we'll have to see exact definition. But it's foolish. Okay, now we're going to define what are the halachas. Ein motziyah b'shus Shusarabim. You cannot take out Shusarabim. Zu. Ve'ein machnisim Shusarabim zu Shusarabim zu. You can't be machnis. You can't take from the Shusarabim to the Shusarabim. You can't take out of the Shusarabim or be machnis from the Shusarabim to the Shusarabim. Ve'im hoitze ve'ichnis b'shoigei chayv chatas. What's the halacha? If you did it, chayv chatas. B'mezid. Someone did it intentionally. Onish koretz. V'nisko. And it wasn't aided. Good skill. Aval yam ubika v'istavnis. But if it's not, if a body of water doesn't have to be an ocean, it could be a lake, or for that matter, a valley, which is not enclosed. It's not called enclosed, so it's an open space, but clearly not a Rishus HaRabim or Istavnis, or it's like a stage, like we said before, in front of the Rishus HaRabim, where we spoke about similar to the Stiyot, the Istavnis and the Stiyot. It's a Stiyot. For a Carmelis, now that's not defined, but a Carmelis, ain't a loik Rishus HaRabim Rishus HaYachid. So it's neither. So what's the din? And you're not allowed to transfer. Midrabanan, it's also to go either direction, from Shus HaRabim to Carmelis, from Shus HaYachid to Carmelis, either way, or the other way around. Yeah. If you're not pseichel pakter, but you're not chayv chatas. The Torah doesn't consider it. It's all. Sorry, you can't carry within it. Is one thing. Second thing is you cannot transfer from any direction. Again, it's not a Rishus HaRabim or Rishus HaYachid. It's not a place. Deraisa, but it's a derabanan, and therefore you potter. Chatzer Strauss, was you have a big courtyard where connects many people, many houses together, or for that matter, streets, which connect different houses together on the street or different courtyards, which are not foolish. So foolish is Rishus HaRabim. So here it depends on the following. This is the halacha. Seches Eruvin. Eruvin which Eruv means we do what's called a halachic Eruv. We collect food for everybody, put it together in one place, and we therefore connect all the people. It's as though they're living all together, and therefore it becomes one house, one Rishus HaYochid, and with Torah. Lo Yervu Asurim, it's considered similar to Rishus HaRabim, and it has a status of Rishus HaRabim, and therefore it's Asur to carry, and it's Asur to transfer Rishus HaYochid, Asurim. Okay, another halacha, let's do another more halacha here. Adam Oimed al Skufa. Now let's talk about a skufa. Skufa was one of the... No, a skufa is something new. A skufa is actually makom ptur. This is the fourth category. A skufa. A skufa is like a doorstep, basically. It's like a little bit... It's a small space, a little bit elevated, which is not a carmelis. It's not big enough to be a carmelis. So... Rashi explains it's not 4 tefachim wide. It's a very little narrow space, and therefore it's kind of automatically like it's bottle. It gets swallowed up either in Rishus HaYochid or Rabbim, so it doesn't have its own identity at all. So therefore, noitum balabayis v'noisulay. So you can be standing on the doorpost of skufa and taking from in the house and out and putting it back. That's okay. Not to be ani v'noisana, or you could be taking Rishus HaRabim and passing it back again, as long as you're standing on the doorstep only on the skufa, which is but what you can't do is Chazal said there is a limit what you can do there, even though technically, logically, you should be allowed to do this, but you can't. Lo yitomi balabayis, don't take for the guy inside and noisid ani on the outside, or mani v'noisid the balabayis. That's already abusing the privilege of the but you are potter because it's not and others argue and they say, well, it actually fluctuates its din. It's not swallowed up that it's nothing. It's going to affect its din as well, and that means to say, so skufa b'shaveshes b'shus bisman shapesuk, but if the door is open, so then it's functioning as part of the bayis kilifnim. Pesach noyel, then it's like the chutz. Now, once it's already 4 tefachim wide, that's a different story, and that's its own rishus, and then it's rishus HaYochid.